I'm a very firm believer of change brings opportunity. And, I've been in the IT industry for over 25 years. I started working on running the old Sun workstations. Um, Very, I wouldn't say primitive, but compared to today, it was primitive. That then changed, obviously, the revolution of dot coms and the internet. That was another change, and then at the moment we're in the AI boom, and that I think that change and that opportunity, that again that opportunity to learn new things, continuously learning is something that excites me and makes me get up in the morning. Let's say.
Welcome to the IT Career Energizer podcast. I'm your host, Phil Burgess. Today I'm talking to Anil Pande. Anil is a director and board advisor across multiple Insurtech, digital health, Fintech and consultancy firms. He is also a managing partner of TestPro. He has had a successful career delivering quality engineering services for large corporate clients by bringing best practice, in-depth knowledge and practical skills to deliver challenging programs. In this episode, we discuss some of the highs and lows of careers in tech and why it's so important to focus your energy on the right things. So, welcome to the podcast, Anil.
Thank you, Phil. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, I'm delighted you could join me. And obviously, for those listening in, Anil and I have known each other for a little while, so we at least have that sort of common understanding of certain things. But I want to really begin, maybe, Anil, if you could tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now.
Sure, Phil. So I've basically started my own firm called TestPro Consulting. Started around about 4 years ago. It's a firm dedicated to testing, so it's something that I'm very experienced in. That's my background in IT is very much focused around testing and quality assurance. And just before the pandemic hit, I found myself looking for a new role. But I thought I could potentially make a difference. I had lots of years of experience in testing, in IT, in large programs, and it always came a cropper with using a third-party supplier who potentially wasn't performing as expected, wasn't perhaps giving the full support that I was expecting. I thought basically I could do it better myself. I have a business partner, Jay. We work together. He's very much focused on the business development side, and I'm very much focused on I would say, the operational side of the company and running projects. That's what I've been doing for the last 3 to 4 years, on and off. We've been fairly successful. We've got clients around the world, actually. So you could say we're a multinational. We've had some small offices as well to provide the nearshore and offshore capabilities that are required as a testing organization. And generally, things are working pretty well. We've been, I would say, fortunate. But I would say we've also made our own luck to a certain extent, leveraging our knowledge, leveraging our contacts, and giving a good service when we've had the chance to run a project for our customers or give advice to our customers.
So, moving obviously from being an employee or an independent consultant to actually managing your own company, you must have learned a number of things along the way. So is there anything that you can sort of maybe pick up on that was completely unexpected that you've learned in the last few years?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say it's probably the back office work that goes on in a company that you're probably not exposed to in your 9 to 5. By that, what do I mean? What I mean is, as let's say a head of testing, you hire a third party supplier, you make that decision to say, yes, we're going to start working with company X. And what you don't realize behind that decision, there's a multitude of contractual work, setting up systems so you can bill, you can invoice, all the security checks, all the due diligence that's done. And I was quite blasé to that. So I've worked with various suppliers and I've engaged with various suppliers. And what my point of view was, yeah, we'll work with a new supplier. And hey ho, 1 month later, people would start getting onboarded, etc., etc. Being on the other side of that, you actually realize there's a lot of complicated work, a lot of non-IT work, I would say. So it really is admin, it is legal, it's security, etc., that I'd never been exposed to. I think that's one big facet of running your own firm that I just wasn't used to or I had not seen. I think the second side to it was certainly around the business development and sales side. Being my career has been very much focused in delivery, delivering large programs, and of course there are analogies. You do have stakeholders, you do have customers that you need to manage, etc. But it's not quite the same as creating content. Putting yourself out there, blowing your own trumpet, telling everybody, "Hey, we're here, we can help." Going out to meetings, going out to opening up that black book and finding new customers or people you're familiar with, calling them up, telling them about TestPro, telling them what they can do. And I suppose that the downside of that, where you get the rejections, where you get the we don't actually want to do business with yourselves, etc., etc. Those would probably be the two major things that I think have made it a complete difference or complete different aspect from my 9 to 5 that I had before.
I mean, from what you were saying earlier, it does sound like you're doing more operational side of things, and then Jay is taking care of maybe the business development side. But I suppose the question I would have for you is it something that you would like to get more involved in? Obviously, there's quite a distinction between the two in terms of the way you've broken up responsibilities, but presumably there is crossover because it is just the two of you.
Yeah. There's, I mean, we've got employees and things, but I would say our employees are very much dedicated to delivery. And perhaps I'm being a bit misleading. I mean, I do business development, but my business development is more around using contacts I already know. So the clients that we currently have, for example, are people that Jay and I have worked with before, people that know us, people that have that confidence in saying, well, if we're going to give this business or this work to TestPro, it's actually with Jay and Anil, and therefore we know we're going to get delivery or we get delivered. And I think that in itself is an aspect of sales, right? When you actually sell because of your reputation, your track record, etc. And that's very much how I've been growing the business in that way, organically, I would say, by reaching out, by talking to people, etc., etc. Jay has been working much more on I would say, the cold calling. We've done some campaigns. Jay's been very much working on any of the content that you see on LinkedIn, for example, or social media. Jay will be more behind that. He also goes to quite a few events. I also go to events and accompany him, but he's really spearheading let's say, the outreach. When you go to an event, there may be people or suppliers that you want to work with or customers you want to actually work for. And he's been working through that part. But yeah, it's definitely a shared responsibility, but I think it's different angles of that responsibility. One is, I would say, new business. Another aspect could be sort of new business, but also keeping the existing business renewing their contracts.
Good. Okay, that's great. That's really interesting to listen to.
Thanks.
Um, but obviously, Anil, this podcast about career development. So I'd maybe like to ask you if you can share a top tip, one that the audience may not be aware of and perhaps should be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking from personal experience, but one phrase that I sort of been using throughout my career, I've been fairly successful, I would say, is "Don't stay still." Is the phrase that I would use, and that can be in various ways, right? It doesn't have to be, hey, you jump around 50 different companies, etc., etc. It can be staying in the same company but doing lots of different roles. It could be perhaps different verticals, especially around IT and let's say, especially around the testing arena, our skills are very portable. So if you do testing in a big bank, you could still do testing in a charity organization, for example, and getting those different angles and different exposures to different organizations, different sectors, I would say, I feel has made, I would say, my career more exciting, not non-repetitive, and I've also had the luck, or I would say the initiative, to actually live in quite a few different other countries as well. So I've worked in 4 or 5 different countries. I've seen different ways of working, different mentalities, um, different, I would just say, ways of doing things in a professional career. And I think that's made my background and my career, one, very rewarding because I've seen a lot of different things, but two, it's also made me a more, I would say, rounded individual, more flexible individual when it comes to working with different cultures and working in different environments. I think it really, that don't stay still, I suppose, could be boiling down to, just keep on learning as well, which may sound a little bit cliched, but it certainly worked for me. And I don't have hardly any regrets about my career decisions that I've made over the last 25, 30 years.
Do you think it's something that you developed, or did you sort of initially set out, if you like, to make sure that you weren't standing still?
I think it was something that I fell into to a certain extent. So it all started good, 25 years ago. I was in my first job at Ericsson, and I didn't quite feel satisfied, or I didn't feel I was being used to my full potential. I think if I remember correctly, I went for a promotion. I didn't get a promotion. Somebody else got it. Blah blah blah. Felt frustrated, so I started looking for a new role. Initially within Ericsson, and didn't really find anything interesting, or maybe I can't remember. Maybe I wasn't successful in certain roles, and so I started looking further afield. And the first role after Ericsson was actually with a firm called Ascom in Switzerland, in Bern. And I remember at the time I was probably 26, 27 years old, something like that, perhaps even younger. And I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified about leaving the UK. It was also a contract, so there was no real stability. Um, Moving to a different country, leaving all friends, family behind, etc. Um, and it was something that at the time felt terrifying, but turns out probably one of the best things I ever did. Um, and so it wasn't something I was definitely not searching for. That it's something that just happened, and I continued to do it. After Switzerland, I moved on to other countries, working as a contractor for different organisations.
Okay, Anil, can you tell us about your worst career moment and what you learned from that experience?
Yeah, sure. I've thankfully not had too many, but one that does come to mind was a firm that I was working for. I won't mention the name. Um, I was working there as a contractor, and I really gave, I would say, like my soul to this program, to this company. I was working, I don't know, all sorts of hours, 80 hours a week. I was traveling all around the world. There was teams in San Francisco. There was teams in India. So I was finding myself living out of a suitcase for a long time. I sacrificed, I would say, one of the regrets I probably do have about that role is sacrifice some family time. I wasn't always at home because of the traveling. Was working long hours. Was working weekends. But at the time in my career, I thought that was the right thing to do. I thought that was a way of getting my not only experience but actually building out my reputation as a hard worker, as someone who is willing to go the extra mile. And so I started off as a contractor. I thought things, after doing all this hard work and continue to do that hard work, I thought things were going in the right direction. I was converted to a permanent employee, basically asked how much I wanted, etc. It was very, very nice rewards package, etc., etc. And I distinctly remember 6 months after being converting, I was let go, and I was told I wasn't performing as required, and that yeah, I was being replaced, and it was my last day. I felt like the whole world sort of had fallen all around me. I felt all that sacrifice and effort was a complete waste of time. Um, but what it did teach me was, because the first thoughts I had was I'm gonna take them to court. Basically, this is unfair, blah blah blah. But then I don't know what happened. I just got a second sort of wind, or second thought was, well, all this negative energy and all this energy I'm going to put into getting potentially, solicitors and court cases, etc. Let's forget all that and let's actually use that energy to find what I'm going to do next in my career. And funny enough, that was the point where I started thinking about setting up my own firm after that experience. Um, and so that was definitely a low point, but like you say, it taught me so much. There's probably three things that come to mind. One is that, you know, channel the negative energy. So if something doesn't quite go your way, then you will have negative thoughts, you will feel low, but try and use that negative thoughts and energy to channel it into finding a new job, finding a new adventure, setting up your own company potentially, whatever it may be, but channel it into something positive. I think the other thing I found also is that, sometimes you don't fit into a company, but you do fit somewhere else. And so never doubt yourself, I think was one of the other things I thought, the immediate reaction was, oh my God, what have I done? I'm no good at my job. I'm no good at X. I'm not good at Y. But that's never the case. It's just sometimes circumstances. It's just being unlucky, wrong place at the wrong time. But bottom line is never doubt yourself. You're obviously in a position, senior position, for a reason, and sometimes things don't work out. But it's not because of yourself. It may be external factors.
I think you're right about that. Not everybody fits every organisation. I think I've learned that certainly in more than
Yeah,
one occasion. So, I think it can be a real knock to your confidence, though, can't it? And I
it,
think
it
that's
can,
the hardest thing.
that's the
And
hard.
to rebuild
Yeah.
that can take some time.
It can, but I think the best way of rebuilding it, depending what journey you want to take, is start looking for the next role. Start doing those interviews. Start using your network to find, another firm or whatever it may be. What you want to do, and then it's like I don't want to compare it to anything, but it's just like, I don't know, cups of tea. Like some people like the tea milky, some people like it strong, and there's the same with organisations. Some organisations will want people who are you know want to go the extra mile, very aggressive, etc. Other organisations don't want that, and it's just a matter of finding that organisation where you will fit in.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, and maybe something a little bit more positive. Can you tell us about your career highlight to date?
Yeah, if I, there's probably two. One was probably I won an award as a IT leader or outstanding IT leader award. I was invited to Las Vegas to come and pick it up. Unfortunately, I couldn't go, so I had to do that speech and recognition all remotely. That was definitely a highlight and something, somebody that you can't be taken away from you, right? That's something
Yeah.
you've worked hard for, you've achieved, and yeah, definitely a highlight. A second highlight has to be starting my own company. I think just to make that decision, take that bold step to go solo, or at least go without that safety net of a 9 to 5, has proved to me that I am capable of doing other things. I am capable of running an organization, and I've learned so much from it as well. So it's been a win-win in that case as well. But those are the two career highlights that come to mind immediately. But I've probably got lots more, but we haven't got enough time, Phil.
No. Um, and what excites you about the future of careers in IT and technology?
I think it's the change. I'm a very firm believer of change brings opportunity, and I've been in the IT industry for over 25 years. I started working on running the old Sun workstations. Um, Very, I wouldn't say primitive, but compared to today, it was primitive. That then changed, obviously, the revolution of dot coms and the internet. That was another change, and then at the moment we're in the AI boom, and that I think that change and that opportunity, that again that opportunity to learn new things, continuously learning is something that excites me and it makes me get up in the morning. Let's say.
Good. Just a quick interruption to remind you to follow or subscribe to the show in your podcast app. Every download and listen improves the show's discoverability. By subscribing and downloading, you'll be helping more people to develop successful careers in tech. And my thanks to you for being a listener. If you have any suggestions about things you'd like covered in the show, or potential guests, why not leave a comment or review? You may even get a shout out in a subsequent episode. We're going to move into the reveal round now. We're going to find out a little bit more about you and the way you think. You ready for this?
Let's go for it.
So, what first attracted you to a career in IT?
If I'm going to be honest, it's probably going to be a strange answer. It's probably the cinema. So when I was growing up, I used to watch films like Tron, War Games, etc., which are all about hackers, about people who somehow did magic with computers, and that got me into it. That got me to, I wouldn't mind doing something like that. I wouldn't mind doing it. And I was probably 12 or 13. First wrote my program on my whatever it was then, ZX Spectrum or something, and I was hooked. Ever since then, it has been a no-brainer for me. I studied it, went to university, got a degree in computer science, and stuck with it ever since.
What is the best career advice you've ever received?
Best career advice I've ever received is probably going to be, I think what I talked about at the beginning. Keep on learning. Don't stay still. Every day brings a new challenge. Every day you'll learn something, and opportunity always brings when there's change.
And conversely, what is the worst career advice you've received?
I would say play the game is a phrase that I've heard a lot of people say to me. And I don't think you have to. I think you have to be yourself. And they may have consequences, but it always turns out for the best. I think there's lots of politics that sometimes you get embroiled in. There's lots of finger pointing, blame storming. But I think that was, if you try and go along with those sort of dynamics, at least for myself, it's never worked.
If you were to begin your career again in today's world, what would you do?
I would probably try and learn to create prompts for ChatGPT. I think if I was to do my career again today, I think it would be much more potentially knowing what I know now to be solely orientation, a lot of orientation towards the soft skills as well as the tech skills. Perhaps one of the other things I've learned is that, you can be a great techie and do stuff by yourself, but if you haven't got the communication skills to articulate what you're doing, it can be a problem. So if I was to start my career again, I would say a more balanced, focused on tech and soft skills.
The next question I probably know the answer to, but I'm going to ask it. So, what are your career objectives at the moment?
Okay, yeah, you do know. So it's to make TestPro a leading test consultancy. Try and grow the company to something substantial.
And what's the number one non-technical skill that has helped you in your career so far?
I would say it's articulation and communication. I didn't actually realize I had that sort of skill until other people actually mentioned it to you. But I think the skill of being able to potentially take complex technical things and explain it to a layman or a person who's non-technical, I think that's a very valuable skill that I've got.
Yes. And what do you do to keep your own career energized?
That's a good question. What do I do to keep? I don't know. I think I try and do these sort of podcasts, which I think helps. I think just imparting knowledge and experience energizes myself. I try and get some publications, try and write some articles as well in some publications if I can. And I think I just try and do some steady work, solid work on the company to grow it. And that keeps me energized.
And probably most importantly, what do you do in your spare time away from technology?
Oh, wow. There's probably two main things that I do. One is I love tennis. So I actually play all racket sports, so squash, badminton, tennis. But as I mentioned, I moved around quite a bit and I ended up living in Spain. And in Spain, tennis was seemed to be the forefront, obviously with Rafael Nadal, etc. So I love playing tennis. Part of a club, and I'm actually in the team, so I must be okay at it. And the other thing I really, really enjoy is actually playing chess. So I'm trying to get to an international master level at chess, but it's a lot more difficult than it actually actually seems. It's probably two of my most my common pastimes.
And Anil, can you share with us a parting piece of career advice?
Yeah, I think it all relates back to what we've talked about before. I think it would be going out your comfort zone. It would be potentially doing things that you've never done before. Um, and if you do get an opportunity to do things that you're uncertain about, uh, in my experience, it's a no-brainer. Just go for it, and whatever happens, you will have learned something. Whatever the result is of that decision, you will have learned something new and positive.
And Anil, how do we find out more about you and connect with you?
Sure, yeah. So I'm on most social media. So you obviously on LinkedIn. You can also check out the TestPro website, so testproconsulting.com. There's a bio there of myself and Jay, and you'll have contact details on the website as well.
Perfect. Anil, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. It's been great chatting with you.
It's great chatting with you, Phil. Pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening in to today's episode with Anil Pande. My thanks go to Anil for being a guest on the show today. As you may be aware, this is one of a number of episodes being released on a daily basis. So please do go and check out previous episodes. And again, if you haven't done so already, please do subscribe to the podcast. And don't forget to join me again tomorrow for another episode.